coming out tonight.
Thank you for having us. So, Atlantic City, New Jersey, a lot of history for the sport here. Historic event for you guys. What was it like holding the Ocean Resort, new venue on the boardwalk where a lot of MMA happens? What was the night like for you?
Well, you know, it's special for a lot of reasons. As you know, Ocean Resort, just reopened. It's a spectacular venue. Bruce Dyfick, came to Atlantic City and had a vision to open up the casino here. Bruce has been, really the reason behind the last 6 years in, keeping the PFL going. He's a big part of, our family as an investor and even just a friend, and so we were really excited to come here, bring PFL 6. It's a beautiful theater. It was a great crowd, and Atlantic City's got all the history. So we were really excited to be here. We're gonna be excited to be back here in 2 weeks.
Yeah. So speaking of which, this event probably had the most decisions versus all your other events. Did that stick out to you at all?
It did.
The high finish rate.
It really did. Look, I've been the guy. Ray and I have been saying how PFL 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 70% finish, that spectacularly high. We saw it a little different tonight. You do the math, and we didn't have 70% finishes tonight. But I do think some of the guys that really needed to get a win, guys like Jake Shields, really figured out how to get a win, and it's going to give him a shot to make it in the playoffs. So certainly for a guy like Jake, for a guy like Abu Bakr, and guys that are a little bit on the bubble, I think they did what they had to do to get into the playoffs, and ultimately that was what tonight was about. Second round, you've got to get a win. And you got to make it into the playoffs. Then the flip side of that is then you have a spectacular finish, from Ray Coover to finish off the night, number 1 seed. I think, look, you got to say he's absolutely the favorite, to win his weight class because, he's just brought it in his 2 fights. Really incredible performance. And I think we're seeing a massive star get created in Ray Cooper.
Do you think because of the divisions that fought tonight, obviously Cepho had said earlier in the week, some of these guys, it's make or break for them. Do you think that might be why we saw not as many finishes that we've seen before tonight?
Yeah, it could be. Look, there's a couple of fights tonight where you could clearly see that the guys were, maybe they got a little bit deep into the fight and then they said, I might not get a finish, but I better get a win. I really don't want to be the guy that, comes out with his second loss. And, we all know what happens when you have your second loss. You're not making the playoffs. And so I think those guys dug in and then they did what they had to do to get the win.
Cool.
But in any case, I still think it was a great night of fights. Look, the regular season has held up fabulously. We've got PFL 7 here in 2 weeks. There's a couple of deciding fights, as you know. Sean O'Connell will be on that card and a few others. There's still a couple guys in the bubble here to make it in. So I think PFL 7 will determine our final playoff standings across the board, and then they'll be on to the quarterfinals and the semifinals during the playoffs.
You actually have a few TBAs left on the schedule. Have you filled those blanks yet as far as where the future events are going to be?
We are filling those out, and most likely we'll be announcing those on Monday or Tuesday of next week.
All right, with the recent announcement of the investors of the $28 million, what kind of week has that been, since then?
I mean, amazing. You look at the folks that have supported us. Guys like Ted Leonsis, who I worked for back in the AOL Sports days. Been very much a mentor to many of us, including Don Davis, who's really led the charge as our chairman. Guys like Tony Robbins, guys like Mark Burnett, and then on top of all that, guys like Kevin Hart. And others that all came in, Brandon Beck, the list goes on and on. We've got such an amazing group of investors, and they've really supported us. It gives not only us the ability to, look at 2019 and beyond with, really, the roster and taking these 72 elite fighters and looking now to 2019, but it also gives us the opportunity to look at how we look at data and analytics and technology and all things that are part of what we've all done with sports and media over the last 20 years, and how we can continue to, I think, really make people understand what great athletes we're seeing here, because they're not just fighters. They're amazing athletes. They can run and jump and spin. They've got endurance. And I think we're going to continue to unlock that with data and analytics. It's a big part of what we want to do, and the investment group's going to help us to do that.
Now, with Mark Burnett involved, and I know he loves, generating content, and is this going to be like a paywall type of content, via available web only, or through an app, or any type of plans? How we're going to push that content?
Look, at our core, we've always talked about being free to everybody. If you can get on Facebook Watch right now, if you've got NBC and NBC Sports Network, you can watch it whether you live here in the States or you live anywhere around the world. You can watch the entire card for free. I think it's a core part of what we want to do to continue to build the audience. I think in the case of Mark, look, Mark knows how to tell stories. Mark is the best at his craft, and so we're really lucky to have him to be part of what we're thinking about as we think of growing fighters and really bringing them along and telling the stories of what it takes to become a young fighter and grow all the way into being a champion. So we look forward to working closely with him to sort of tell that story.
Pushing for DC. Come back.
Me too.
And any details as for speaking of Mr. Burnett? Any details on the Challenger series that he had mentioned? He had mentioned that to Variety in an article. They said
yeah. Look, Mark's going to be in the middle of how we understand what we're going to do to develop fighters in a Challenger series. Haven't announced anything yet, but it's just like we put together, I think, a spectacular format with this regular season playoffs and championship for the Professional Fighters League. I think we'll also do that same thing with the Challenger series, and then the two will blend together as we look at how those Challenger Series winners, then come into the PFL. So it'll be an exciting process as we start to work on it in 2019 and 2020.
Would you be able to tell us how that investment came to fruition, especially with Kevin Hart?
Just a lot of hard work. I think we had a great investor group, a great board. I'd mentioned Don Davis. I think he really did an amazing job of working at what he does, which is raise money and give us the capabilities to bring you all a great league. And so, amongst him and our other investors, it was really just working every single day to help tell the story and help those investors that have now come in understand why this is the way and the direction that MMA and the sport is going. The league format, and then all of the data and the way that we tell these stories about the fighters. And when you put all that together, you get investors like we were able to bring in. So it's pretty exciting that it all came together the way it did.
Thank you.
Anything else, gentlemen?
Yeah, I have a question. We saw again tonight, you obviously have one of the most exciting and talented prospects in all of MMA on the roster in Kayla Harrison. Do you think that one day she could become the face of the PFL, or at the least, how could she elevate the PFL on the MMA landscape?
Yeah, look, it's great. I was involved in the Olympics for a big part of my career, so just Kayla being a two-time gold medalist and being an Olympian sort of is so special. I mean, it's special for all of us. First gold in judo, and then she goes and does it again 4 years later. So she started working with us. She was really sort of behind the mic. She's amazing to work with. She's a professional athlete, and she comes on time. She comes prepared in everything she does. She told us she wanted some time. She wanted to become a great fighter. She didn't know what it was like to get hit in the face. She went and she trained, and we gave her that time, and now I think you're seeing already a little bit of the fruits of that labor that she put in over those 18 months. A great win in the first round against Brittany. I think a really tough opponent tonight in Josette. But she sort of kept her composure, and you saw her power, her poise, and really I think her mental, that mental part that made her an Olympian, because she's still figuring this out. She's 2-0, and now we're going to continue to, grow her into a star, be part of the Professional Fighters League. She also loves our format around being an Olympian. If you're an Olympian and you keep winning, you win a gold medal. If you're in the Professional Fighters League and you keep winning, you become the champion and you win $1 million. There's a lot of similarities there. So I think she sees that, and we certainly see that in her, and we're excited that she's part of it.
Thank you.
Guys, thanks. Appreciate it.